Well, let's speak now to former Labour MP and also a former colleague of Derek Draper, Lord John Mann. Thanks for joining us, John. I understand you actually knew Derek from a very young age, back from when he was still a teenager.
Yeah, I first came across Derek as a 16-year-old when he was at Runshaw Further Education College. And he was making a reputation for himself as this kind of very bubbly character. And all the young kind of political activists at that time would have a poster of, I don't know, Che Guevara or Chairman Mao or those kind of people up on the wall. Derek, as a 16-year-old, was very proud of the fact. I can recall him telling me when he first turned up at a Labour Party event, he had a poster of Roy Hattersley. So he was rather unique in his approach, even in those days.
I knew Derek very vaguely. I met him, through journalistic circles, and I remember his political heyday. And down there in Westminster, he was a force of nature, not, I think it's fair to point out, universally loved, quite a controversial character, but no better guy to have a drink with at the bar.
Well, some of us loved him all the way through. He was a great friend of mine, and his influence has never really been appreciated. He was one of the key figures in the creation of New Labour. And he was kind of the fly on the wall because he had no personal aspiration to be an MP or a minister or, et cetera, et cetera. I think he loved the game of politics, of winning, and he was highly motivated to get Labour back into power, having spent his entire life with it out of power when Tony Blair won in 1997. And so he perhaps was more there than people ever realised, at the heart of things and involved in critical decision-making. And if he'd have ever written his memoirs thoroughly and honestly, people would have really seen. I can tell you this, Tony Blair owes Derek Draper an awful lot in terms of becoming the leader of the Labour Party and the Prime Minister. He was that influential.
Absolutely. Now, you were a friend of his. Did you have much contact with him during his sad decline due to his condition?
Derek kind of departed from the political world. In fact, twice he tried a brief comeback, which was spectacularly unsuccessful. But he drifted away. And when I used to bump into him, what was really noticeable about Derek, he always used to say, I'd kind of, how are you, Derek? And he'd quiz me about the political world and what's going on. And I'd say, what about you? What are you up to? And ever since he got married to Kate and had children, the two children, he always said the same thing. He was absolutely genuine in this. He said, I've never been happier. I'm here, I'm married to Kate. I've got these two wonderful kids I'm bringing up. I've never been happier. And he always stressed that to me. He used to say, John, this is the happiest time of my life. And I think that the fact of he's gone too early, far too early. It's cruel. His departure. Anyone's death is terrible for their family. Of course it is. Many, many people died because of COVID. But, having invested so much in his family and his children, for him to be taken away so cruelly in this way and so young really is a tragedy. And that's what I think makes this particularly sad today. And I think why you got the reaction you got from the general public there, genuine reaction. Derek would be probably rather embarrassed to be headlines in any way. But it's his family we're all thinking of. They've got to manage without him now. And he's a terrible loss.
You say he was an extremely influential person politically, but I think it's fair to say as well that his tragic early death has been incredibly influential, because if there's one thing that he embodied, it was looking at someone and thinking, well, he's not that old and he wasn't chronically ill, and yet he has ended up being hit by COVID extremely hard. How important was it that Garraway enabled the world to see what she was struggling with behind the scenes?
I think he was very brave. Kind of that's her professional skill, of course. and she's very, very good at it. Almost a national icon in terms of broadcasting, I would say. But it still requires an awful lot of courage to open yourself out in this way. And look, I mean, I knew Derek well for many years. You know, I used to see him daily for a long period of time. And, you know, we used to organise together in trying to make Labour electable again. And I think with a degree of success, I and many others. But it's kind of, he would want us today also to be thinking of the symbolism. You know, he represents, and his family's loss represents what many families have gone through. I know Derek would want us to remember him as well in that way. And if he can have a legacy, our ability to deal with this kind of crisis, to make the right decisions, to think of its impact on families and how devastating something like COVID has been to so many people, and many lives lost and families who haven't had and don't have the opportunity to say what they'd really like to say publicly. Well, Kate and Derek represent all those people. I'm absolutely certain that Derek would want us to be thinking of them today, as well as him and his family.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Derek Draper with us. That was John Mann.